Hey, Darlene here at Pell Academy. I'm just in my studio. I'm going to put together a quick arrangement just using some of these beautiful tulips. And we have a few mini cairn stems, and I've got some beautiful roses back here that I'm going to be using, just some gorgeous garden roses and spray roses and things like that, just left over from some prototypes. So stand by. So, um, okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is process my flower stems and get them ready. So oftentimes you can see I've already taken some of the stems out of these packages, but they sometimes come with plastic sleeves. I'm a big fan of the plastic, but sometimes that's the way it is. And then a lot of times the roses come to us in these sort of cardboard collars, so I can save that for my fireplace. But they also come sort of individually wrapped, and oftentimes when you get roses, this was just a bunch of 12, so I've already taken some out of here, but they sort of lay them down in little sections of usually 3 to 5 roses, kind of in staggered rows, and that way the heads get protected. So you'll find that if you buy like a large package of 25, and in this case it was just 12, and they're little sections of roses instead of them all being in one group. So that's just something to note. So another little tidbit as well, often with garden roses, and this variety name, by the way, is Mandarin Express. So you can see how they have these gorgeous sort of swirly insides here. Really, really pretty. Just like that. And so with these guys, sometimes they can have little barbs up around the top of the stem as well. So you can just take your florist knife and I use the back of it and just kind of rub it down just a little bit. And what that does, it just kind of allows those barbs to kind of dissipate a little bit, so they're not going to surprise you with a little jab there. And often on the back of the leaves, don't be surprised if you find a few thorns there as well. So sometimes you can just take the back of your knife and kind of clean them up a little bit. It's always great so that you're not really lowering your fun level by getting stabbed by a thorn, because that can happen. So again, I'm just kind of taking my knife, I'm just cleaning these up just a little bit. And again, the florist method is just to take that blade and that thumb, they run in parallel, and you're just gently pulling it towards yourself. You can see I'm not crossing my thumb over that blade at all. That's basically that too. And roses, just so we're clear, they do prefer a nice fresh cut. So make sure that your clippers are nice and sharp if you're using clippers. Or that your knife is nice and sharp. It's just like cutting vegetables. We want to make sure that we're using really sharp tools so that we don't damage the stems and we get a nice fresh cut. So these are our spray roses that we're using, and I've just simply just removed the excess foliage from down the stem. Got a broken bloom here, so I'm just going to remove that as well. But just want to clean those up as well. And usually spray rose just means that there's 3 or 4 blooms on a stem as opposed to one big bloom. So once you've got everything cleaned up and ready to go, you're ready to start designing. Okay, so I just have my little vessel here. I've got some water in a jug, a little bit of florist food in here. And inside my vessel, this is just a pedestal, beautiful. I love these. They're made of tin, but they have a gorgeous pedestal, and we just take a little chicken wire ball. So usually when we make a chicken wire ball, we take a piece of chicken wire that's about 12 inches wide by about 18 inches long or so, and we fold it in half. So I often group it and make almost like a little log out of it, and then I fold it in half again and kind of wiggle the 2 ends together, and then I just kind of mesh it into a little ball and put it into my vessels. And then I've just taken some clear tape and done an easy grid on the top, and we call that upper level, like the upper locking level, that grid. That holds our chicken wire in and also gives us a little bit of extra gridding on the top. And then you want to make sure that your chicken wire ball has enough sort of gathering there that it's really going to grab those stems when you put in your water and we'll put your stems in, obviously. So I'm filling up my vessel. I'm only going to fill it up to about an inch from the top or so. And then for greens today, I've just grabbed a little tiny bit of salal. I have a little bit of asparagus fern. Asparagus fern is not my favorite because it's very messy, But with roses, it looks incredible. Like it just looks so beautiful. So I've grabbed a little bit of that, and then I'm going to be using, I've got some of these gorgeous double tulips here. And then again, a little bit of those mini carns. And then of course my spray roses from before. So I'm going to start, oh, one other green I have is just a little bit of this Israeli ruscus that I'm going to use as well. And you just want to create like a bit of a shape at first, and then we're just going to kind of build this out. So I'm going to do it quite low and compact, and then I'm just going to kind of build in some layers so that it sort of has this really nice flowy look to it. So stand by. So I've just placed a couple of the roses in there as a bit of a focal, but you can see as well, you can take sometimes it's nice to take some of the more inexpensive blooms and use them right down on top of the chicken wire just to create some really good depth inside. So that's what I've done in here. And I'm going to sort of marry this up a little bit in the front as well, because it draws your eye really into the depth of the arrangement, and it's not expensive. Which is a great way to get that color. That color will really draw your eye in, so it can create a lot of interest and depth, and that's something you want to think about as you're building it out. So once you have the shape sort of established, I have these beautiful tulips, and they're very kind of dancey and quite wild. They've been around for a couple days, but what you really want to do is, at this point I've got this sort of really compact shape, and I want to bring it out and give it some life. So I'm using the tulips and things like that on the outside of all the beautiful blooms, just to kind of really create where your eye hits first and make it interesting. So use the shapes of the tulips to your advantage whenever you're putting them into your arrangement, and don't be afraid to have them sort of, curl up in different directions and have some fun with them, because they can really be quite playful when you get them in with all the roses, kind of doing these fun little shapes and things. And then, let them be sort of almost the tallest part of the arrangement as well. It's just really something fun to think about as you're doing this. It sort of gives it that old world feeling too, where they sort of have have gone a little bit wild and sort of out of control, is what we like to sort of play with and experiment with our flowers. It's really nice. So here you can see we have finished up, I finished up the arrangement. You can see what that color and that impact does with the chicken wire, with the color right inside the arrangement, how much more magnificent it is. Just that your eye is getting pulled right inside this arrangement, and it's so open and free in a lot of the directions it's going here. It's not as compact. I think that just makes a really distinctive looking arrangement. So you can play around with this really easily with chicken wire. I find it super easy to work with. One of the big things people always ask me is, why do I now use chicken wire? I used to use foam way back when. I was trained to use a lot of floral foam. I still use it on occasion, but I would say probably my go-to for the last probably 10 years at least, if not longer, maybe 15, has been chicken wire. And the reason being is it is so, you can get so much more flexibility out of this. Oftentimes with foam, when you insert a stem, you have to be really accurate on where you're putting it. If you want to pull it out and move it around, it ruins your foam. And overall, it's just not a great way, in my opinion, to do or to experiment with flowers or work with flowers, because number one, it's not sustainable for the industry, and number two, it just creates a lot of waste. Where this one here with the chicken wire, you can reuse this, and it's just so easy. Is it harder to deliver something like this for event work? No, it's not. It's exactly the same as best practices you would use for delivering vase arrangements. So when you're thinking about that, is it, oh, I don't know if I could handle that when I'm doing event work. You absolutely can, believe me. I did it for over a decade, and it's really transformative. I also find that, if this was a table centerpiece at a wedding, if guests get to take this home, they'll be able to see and reuse a lot of the elements in here. So much easier sometimes than the foam kind of method. So this is just one way to sort of take it a little, elevate your arrangements a little bit by using chicken wire. If you're a beginner, it's a great way to try it, because it's not as, you don't have to commit to where your stems go into your vessel as much. You can easily move things around and shift them if you need. And the chicken wire often gives you that flexibility. So hopefully you'll give this a try. I'm going to photograph this so you can see how it looks with some better light. Thanks so much for watching.